The Book of Job is a profound and complex work of wisdom literature in the Bible. Unlike a collection of straightforward stories, it is primarily a dramatic dialogue and a poetic meditation on the nature of suffering, justice, and faith. However, it does contain a narrative framework that tells a specific story. Here are the key stories or narrative components from the Book of Job. 1. The prologue, Job's prosperity and first test, chapters 1-2. This is the most narrative part of the book and sets up the central conflict, Job's character and prosperity. The story begins by introducing Job as a righteous and blameless man who lives in the land of Uz. He is incredibly wealthy, with vast flocks, many servants, and 10 children. He is known for his piety, always offering sacrifices for his children just in case they have sinned. The heavenly court. A scene unfolds in the heavenly court where angels, sons of God, present themselves before the Lord. Among them is the accuser, or Satan. The Lord praises Job's faithfulness, but Satan argues that Job is only faithful because God has blessed him so abundantly. Satan proposes a test. If God removes Job's blessings, he will curse God to his face. The first disaster. God gives Satan permission to take away all of Job's possessions and his children, but not to harm Job himself. In a single day, a series of messengers arrive to report 4 different disasters. Sabaean raiders steal his oxen and donkeys and kill his servants. A fire from heaven burns up his sheep and more servants. Chaldean raiders steal his camels and kill more servants. A great wind collapses the house where his children were feasting, killing all 10 of them. Job's response. Despite this overwhelming loss, Job's faith does not waver. He tears his robe, shaves his head, and falls to the ground in worship, famously saying, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." The second test. Satan returns to the heavenly court. God again points to Job's steadfastness. Satan argues that Job's faith would break if his own health were afflicted. God grants permission for Satan to strike Job with disease, but warns him not to take his life. Job's sickness and wife's rebuke. Job is afflicted with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. He sits in ashes and uses a piece of broken pottery to scrape his sores. His wife tells him, "Are you still holding on to your integrity? Curse God and die." Job rebukes her, saying, "You are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" 2. The dialogue with friends, chapters 3-31. This section is less of a story and more of a philosophical and poetic debate, but it is a critical part of the narrative. The arrival of friends. 3 of Job's friends, Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite, come to comfort him. For 7 days and 7 nights they sit with him in silence, recognizing the magnitude of his suffering. Job's lament. Job breaks the silence, cursing the day of his birth and wishing he had never been born. This lament opens a long series of speeches. The friends' arguments. Each friend in turn offers a speech, followed by Job's response and then a rebuttal. Their main argument is based on the conventional wisdom of the time, known as retribution theology. Eliphaz. God is just, and suffering is a punishment for sin. Job must have sinned to deserve this. He urges Job to repent. Bildad. He is more harsh, suggesting that Job's children must have sinned to be killed. He argues that the wicked always suffer and the righteous prosper. Zophar. He accuses Job of talking too much and not confessing his guilt. He states that God's wisdom is beyond human comprehension, and that Job's suffering is just a small part of what he deserves. Job's defense. In his responses, Job passionately maintains his innocence. He knows he has not committed a specific sin to deserve this. He rejects the friend's simplistic explanations and cries out to God, demanding to know why he is suffering. He longs for a divine audience to present his case.
3. The Elihu speeches, chapters 32-37. A new character, a young man named Elihu, enters the scene. He is angry with both Job and his friends. Elihu's rebuke. Elihu criticizes the friends for failing to answer Job effectively, and also criticizes Job for being arrogant and presumptuous in challenging God. A new perspective on suffering. Elihu offers a different, more nuanced perspective. He suggests that suffering is not always a punishment for past sin, but can also be a form of discipline or a test, designed to refine a person's character and prevent them from committing future sin. Or the Theophany in God's speeches, chapters 38-41. This is the dramatic climax of the book. God appears. The Lord finally answers Job from a whirlwind. He does not provide a direct explanation for Job's suffering. Instead, he challenges Job's understanding of the universe, a series of rhetorical questions. God asks Job a long series of questions about the natural world, the creation of the earth, the stars, the oceans, and the habits of wild animals like the wild goat, the raven, and the eagle. These questions demonstrate God's immense power, wisdom, and knowledge, all of which are far beyond human comprehension. The Behemoth and Leviathan. God describes two powerful and mysterious creatures, Behemoth and Leviathan, to illustrate his sovereignty and power over creation. These descriptions serve to humble Job and show him that he cannot even comprehend the creatures of the earth, let alone the mind of God. Of the epilogue, Job's restoration, chapter 42. The final chapter brings the story to a close. Job's humility. Humbled by God's presence and his words, Job finally repents, not of sin, but of his arrogance in questioning God. He says, "I know that you can do all things. No purpose of yours can be thwarted. I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes." God's rebuke of the friends. God rebukes Job's three friends for not speaking what is right about him, as his servant Job had. He instructs them to offer a sacrifice and have Job pray for them, so that he will not deal with them according to their foolishness. Job's restoration. After Job prays for his friends, the Lord restores his fortunes. God gives Job twice as much as he had before. He has new sons and daughters, 7 sons and 3 daughters, and lives a long, full life, seeing his children and grandchildren to the 4th generation. In essence, the story of Job is a cycle, from prosperity to devastating loss, to a period of questioning and debate, to a confrontation with the divine, and finally to restoration.